Hello everyone, it's time for another hitbox video. Today we'll be taking a look at the hero's hitboxes. The hero, despite only having been out for a few weeks, has quickly become one of the most divisive characters in all of Smash. Which is certainly saying something given his competition, whether you think his RNG mechanics and potential insta-kills will ruin the game, or that he's simply not as big of a problem as people are making him out to be. There is one place we can look for some cold hard facts, in the frame data and hitboxes. So why don't we do just that? Today's hitboxes were created by Struggleton and Invy on Twitter. They collaborated on creating these hitboxes, and I suggest you go follow them if you want to stay updated on more hitbox visuals in the future. I also have to mention Arthur, who amongst others are responsible for creating the program that is used to make these hitbox visuals. There's going to be links for everything in the description should you want to check it out. Anyways, let's get into it. Starting off with Jab. And already there is stupid stuff. The first hitbox is pretty alright. It consists of 6 hitboxes, 3 on the top and 3 overlaid in front of hero. Like I mentioned pretty much every time. This is weird because when hitboxes overlap like this, the one with the lowest ID will always prioritize over the others, meaning only one of them actually take effect. Seeing how all of them have the exact same size, this renders 2 of the hitboxes completely pointless. They might as well not even be there. It has a Sakura angle hitbox, except that it's overlaid by a 180 angle hitbox. For future reference, whenever stuff like this happens, I'll just ignore the hitboxes that actually don't do anything. Like this same thing happens with Jab 2, but I'll just be covering the hitboxes that actually effectively do something. A lot of jabs in Smash are weird. It's not the first time I've said that, and it's certainly not going to be the last. Despite being a swing towards the ground, some characters can still low profile under it, as a result of the hitbox being a little too tall. These hitboxes then set up into the second hitbox, which looks a little better than the first one. This one at least covers the blind spots the first jab misses. The hitboxes in this case is very similar. The big pink hitbox drags people towards hero, while all other have the Sakura angle. The last hitbox is pretty simple. The launcher is actually a little small for a swordy launcher hit. It's also really weird how the hitboxes just stay there despite him swinging his sword. It looks kinda strange. The hitboxes all have the same damage and knockback, and for once there are no excess hitboxes. F-Deal consists of 2 parts. The first one consists of 4 different hitboxes. This time, however, despite the hitboxes being overlaid, they actually have a reason to be so. The hitboxes that overlap have properties that depend on which game state the opponent is in. One for when the opponent is hit while on the ground, and one while aerial. They all have different angles to compensate for where the move connects and if they are aerial or not. The damage is the same, however, and it only has some minor angle and knockback differences. The second hit is an overhead sword swing that has a pretty huge hitbox. The first frame may not be that impressive, but the second one is quite the treat. In Sword Fighter tradition, there's a huge hitbox on hero that covers a lot of his upper body. The farthest hitbox is also very huge. I'm kinda getting some Smash 4 Cloud flashbacks here. The hitboxes all have the same damage and knockback, because not all hitboxes have to be complicated. Down tilt has 3 different hitboxes, and it's actually pretty simple, all things considered. They're not like crazy big, but I've seen much smaller slide kick-like moves in this game. It doesn't really seem to have any intangibility though, which does lead to some pretty notable hurtbox shifting. If nothing else, at least it's one of his fastest neutral options. Even if the move is fairly laggy and does not really combo into anything. Either way, the hitboxes have the same knockback and damage. It's a decent enough move. Then there is dash attack, which is pretty much just a straight copy of Link's dash attack. The move itself is pretty slow, but does hit fairly hard should you actually land it. The hitbox itself is kinda weird. The first frame has 4 hitboxes on the sword which all deal the same amount of damage, and only has minor knockback differences. Then there's what I can only assume to be the world's smallest Sour Spot. Aw, just look at how cute it is. The Sour Spot deals 2 less damage, and since it is the lowest ID, it will be prioritized when overlapped with other hitboxes. The second frame is just the same, except now the hitboxes are all overlapped, so yeah, that's dash attack. Up tilt is... oh. Okay. I knew it was just a matter of time before we were bound to run into one of these hitboxes. But I mean, still, just look at it. Who thought this was okay? The first few frames look normal enough, but then it quickly spirals out of control. I mean, at least the hitbox reaches more vertically than anything else, making it less useful for neutral, but still you can catch grounded opponents with it, just because of the sheer size of the hitbox. Though shorter characters will probably not get hit by it. The first 2 starter frames are pretty huge for a fast up tilt, and the third and onwards are just stupidly huge. It also feels like there's just no cohesion to the hitboxes here. There's a lot of seemingly randomly placed hitboxes of varying sizes. It looks like someone bashed their head onto the keyboard and just said, that's good enough. The hitboxes themselves are not really that interesting, however. They all launch at the same angle and deal the same amount of knockback, with the only exception being the red hitbox, which deals 2 less damage for whatever reason. This hitbox is such a DLC character hitbox, it's not even funny, and I have a feeling this is not the last we'll see of these hitboxes. Before moving on to his aerials, here is his grabs, and to no one's surprise it's pretty bad, because this is ultimate and no one gets to have good grab range. So, moving on to his aerials. Well, after looking at up tilt, forward air looks really pathetic. Like, how on earth is this the same sword? I mean, this is what a hitbox like this really should look like. It looks, you know, normal. The move is pretty straightforward as well, only consisting of Sakura angles and having mostly the same damage and knockback, with again the red hitbox being the exception. Despite back air being an unnaturally slow move, the hitbox is pretty unimpressive. It looks basically identical to forward air, except it's in the opposite direction. The only real difference is that the back air does not actually use the Sakura angle. Besides that, the sour spot and the sweet spot are the same with some minor damage differences. I kind of expected back air to have a bigger hitbox. Like, back air is frame 18, it's so slow. You know you have a problem when your down air that spikes is faster than your back air. Which, speaking of, down air is pretty good. It's your standard swordy spike down air. It kind of reminds me of a tamer version of Cloud's down air, having an initial spike hitbox and some additional extra frames that linger afterwards. The first 2 frames where the move spike is just about what you would expect from a move that spikes, but the lingering hitbox afterwards is actually quite a bit bigger. Most of Hero's attacks that aren't specials are pretty standard, it seems. But don't worry, we'll get to his specials soon enough. Up air consists of a kick into the air above Hero. Because why use a sword when you got legs? Again, the hitbox is very simple, though it is a bit bigger than I was expecting. It's also very fast, being one of Hero's fastest moves, and it even has a fair amount of active frames to boot. As for the 2 hitboxes, they are completely identical. They deal the same amount of damage and have the same knockback and angle. I do like this move just for the fact that they clearly tried to make this the least swordy-like up air ever, which is nice seeing how a lot of Hero's moves are not really that original. Lastly, we have neutral air. The move is a circle swing around Hero, similar to a lot of other neutral airs, though somehow neutral air's hitbox is actually bigger than forward air and back air's hitboxes, which is not really common at all. Usually it is the other way around. The move has 3 hitboxes, 2 on his sword and 1 on his body, though again they all have the same properties. This is a pretty good neutral air for neutral and stuff like that, something Hero really needs seeing how a lot of his other moves are fairly slow and laggy. It's a good neutral air, but an Ike neutral air it is not. Then there is time for his smash attacks. Down smash is kinda stupid. In a lot of cases with down smash hitboxes, the designers tend to place a hitbox or 2 close to the body of the character to make sure the character does not whiff up close. In Hero's case, they just slapped a huge hitbox on his entire body and called it a day. It's kinda funny. But I guess that is one of the upsides of being a DLC character. You just get to have some crazy hitboxes for no reason. However, as you've probably guessed by now, the red hitbox is a sour spot dealing 2 less damage, and the knockback and angles are identical across the board. Forward smash, however, is actually a pretty normal hitbox, which is fine by me honestly. You know, not every move has to be crazy huge for no reason. What I am way less okay with, however, is the fact that this move can randomly kill me at 40. That's kinda dumb, but that is a topic for another time. The hitbox follows the same formula as most of his other moves, having a sour spike close to his body that deals 2 less damage, yeah, I don't need to go on about it. Up smash is, like many of Hero's other moves, very reminiscent of other up smashes. The Fire Emblem gang comes to mind. This one, however, does not have the safety wheel hitboxes. There are no sour spots on the side to catch opponents should you miss, so you really have to be precise with this one. As for the hitbox itself, it's pretty big, but nothing crazy. It follows the same rule as the others, having the closest hitbox be a sour spot. Oh, and since I didn't really talk about this in detail, I guess I'll quickly cover it here. Hero can crit on all of his smash attacks. The critical rate is 12.5%, or a 1 out of 8 chance of critting. When Hero crits, the only thing that changes is that the move deals double damage, which granted is one of the most important factors for determining knockback, leading to the moves killing a lot earlier. It's a little stupid, but most of his smash attacks are pretty slow, so you probably won't get hit by them unless you really screw up. Alright, it's finally time to talk about his specials. Sadly, some of Hero's specials can't be visualized. To be able to visualize a hitbox in Smash with the current tools we have, it requires that the move has a corresponding model. And a lot of projectiles use particle effects instead of models. This means that a lot of them can't be visualized. Moves like up B, neutral B, and a lot of the moves on the command select are particle effects only. However, some of them do have proper models, so let's have a look at those. Side B has 3 different variations depending on how long you hold the button down. First there is Zap, which consists of a single hitbox that moves forwards after being launched. It's got a little bit more range than you would expect, and does actually get a little weaker as the move goes on, with the closest hitbox being the strongest, but aside from that it's a very simple hitbox. Next up there is Zapple, which is kind of not okay actually. It's a beam in front of hero with a lot of horizontal range. It deals quite a bit of damage and is probably the best variant out of the three, factoring in the mana consumption and the speed of the move. As for the hitbox itself, I'd say the hitbox is very straightforward, but I've been trying to crack down on bad puns as of late, so let's just move on to the next one. Kazap is the final variant and by far the most powerful kill power wise. You can get some really early kills if you use this close to the ledge. The move has a lot of different hitboxes. First there is one that covers the entirety of hero's body, then there is a hitbox in front and behind of hero. He then finishes with a massive hitbox covering a lot of area in both directions. Needless to say, this move is pretty wild. Though it does cost a ton of mana to use and it's not exactly the fastest move, so I guess it's kind of warranted. The only thing of note here besides it being just massive, the red hitbox is the strongest, the purple one is slightly less powerful than the red one, and the grey one is slightly weaker than the purple one again. Aside from that, what you see is what you get. Luckily there is a lot to see here. Since up B and neutral B isn't able to be visualized, we'll be ending today off by looking at command select. Or at least a few of the ones that can actually be visualized. I was originally going to go in depth into how the command select works, but I quickly realized that it deserves its own video. So for the time being, we'll just look at the remaining hitboxes. First up is, this is Crackle Slash. I mean, what can I say about it? I'm actually kinda speechless. It is a monster of a hitbox, reaching way farther than it has any right to. The move consists of 4 hitboxes. It only has one sour spot, that being the huge orange hitbox at the end. It at least seems like the designers had some mercy when making this unholy abomination. Although the rest of them are the same hitboxes with the same properties. Now again, all the hitboxes do come with a caveat that they only appear randomly, which does make it a little harder to abuse this absurd hitbox. Though I still feel like this one is a little excessive. On the same note, Flame Slash is identical to Crackle Slash's hitbox, except that it does not have the freeze effect. For a change of pace, let's look at Metal Slash! After Crackle Slash, Metal Slash just looks awful. Which, I mean, the move is pretty awful, to be fair. It deals a grand total of 1 damage, and has 0 kill potential. Sure, it instantly kills metal enemies, but that only matters in the Ditto. And only if they use another really trashy move, that being Keklang. I mean, the hitbox is just alright, I guess, but it doesn't really matter when the move is virtually useless. Speaking of Keklang, if you use Keklang in the air, it actually does have a hitbox. But I mean, good luck actually getting that one off. You'll need some serious reaction time to get this one off before landing. And even then, the hitbox is not really that impressive. The move just kind of does nothing. It has a lot of lag when the effect wears off, making it very punishable. It's just kind of bad. Ironically enough, much like Metal Slash. Next up is Hatchet Man, which is a really strange name for a spell, but sure. Despite having a ridiculously high startup, the move is just very mediocre when it comes to its hitbox. The move does hit like a truck, but with no armor and so much startup, I doubt you'll ever land it outside of a shield break. Well, it's time to talk about the big ones. And when I say that, I am not joking. Kamikaze is just ridiculous. The hitbox is absolutely massive. It has 2 different hitboxes. The sweet spot deals 50 damage before 1v1 multiplier. Waft? Pfft. KO punch? Don't make me laugh. Kamikaze doesn't care. Sure, you lose a stock, but what is a stock worth when you get to obliterate every living creature within a 500 meter radius? The move does have a sour spot that deals 35 instead of 50. So in other words, the sour spot is only as powerful as a KO punch. That's good to know. The hitbox itself is very self-explanatory. It's what it is. And it's kind of not okay. Finally, the last hitbox of the night is Magic Burst. Magic Burst is basically Kamikaze, except it's a multi-hit, and it doesn't kill you. Who thought that was a good idea? I mean, sure, you need to have a lot of mana for it to actually kill, but when you do have the mana, it's very hard to actually avoid. In any case, the hitbox is only slightly smaller than the Kamikaze hitbox. Again, this is just a massive circle. I don't have too much to say about it, besides, well, why? However, that about concludes Heroes hitboxes. They certainly were interesting, having a very broad spectrum in terms of size. As usual, if there's a character you want me to cover in a future video, let me know in the comments and I'll take it into consideration for next time. But that about does it for now. So until next time, thank you so much for watching.